Grand Concourse 149th Street Station in the Bronx, graffiti writers gather at what they call the writer's bench.
What's good? Another episode live from the Writer's Bench. It's your man Kill. Got my soldiers on deck tonight. We got Bezo and that. What's going on, y'all?
What up?
Y'all no doubt. And then we also got my man, my partner in crime, Vegas. Y'all don't know, get that Gray Area album we got together. You're all welcome. We got another joint we cooking up right now for y'all that sounding bananas. What's going on, Vegas?
Chilling, man. Like I said before, I'm happy to be here. You know what I'm saying? We'll chop it up. About Pac.
Yes, sir. So, yo, this dude on Twitter, you know, I like to give props. So his name is @LiverCheese. He got at me. You know.
What?
That's the dude's name. His name is @LiverCheese. You know, it is what it is. But he said, and I want to make sure I'm quoting this question, why do you think so many people front on the East Coast and they dismiss Pac when it comes to being an MC? You know what I mean? So it made me, you know, and I replied to his answer. I said, to be honest with you, I know a lot of East Coast people who love Pac. I got a lot of people in my crew who swear by Pac. And a lot of times I feel like I'm the minority because I'm not a big Pac fan as an MC. You know, but it really made me sit down and really think about, you know, why don't I think more East Coast people really rock with Pac like that? So as always, you know, and a couple of people have, you know, gotten at us on the comments like, you know, you're always doing shows about Nas and Jay and Big. You got, you know, Nas Illmatic and the evolution of Nas and Jay-Z and Big, and y'all never talk about Pac. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's figure this out. Let's figure out, you know, I don't know if cats on the bench rock with Pac or not. You know, I've never really, his name never come up in conversation before, but I just don't want it to be no, you know, 95 Source Awards like the Writer's Bench ain't got no love for Pac and Death Row. So we gonna chop it up and try to understand what's going on, how cats feel and everything like that. So let me ask the first question. Do you really think a lot of East Coast cats do dismiss Pac as an MC? Vegas, you the guest with us tonight. So what do you think? Do a lot of East Coast cats that you know representing Brooklyn, do they front on Pac? Do they like Pac? What do you think, and how do you feel about Pac?
I think in general, I don't think a lot of people hate on Pac, especially maybe back in the 90s with the whole East Coast, West Coast thing. But like I know a couple dudes who like Pac and didn't like Big, and they were from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? And of course, you know, I would say shit to them like, oh, your hood pass is revoked and all of that. But at the end of the day, like me with Pac, I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I was telling you earlier, I felt like when Pac first came out, you know, Brenda's Got a Baby and I Get Around and those albums, Dear Mama, like I like singles from Pac, you know what I'm saying? And I thought they were cool. I like his messages, and it wasn't until All Eyes on Me and later Machiavelli where I really dug why people like him. Now, when it comes to MC, I don't feel like Pac is an MC. I feel like he's a rapper who is also somewhat of a poet. You know what I'm saying? Because his music, what people like about his music is the messages. Because that's where he's most potent. All that ride or die, ride on my enemies, it's the same song over and over. And that's some reasons why some dudes don't like him, because they hear that and say, well, yo, that's all he say. He always talking about riding. But it's really the positive records, the records about black people. You know, like I said, Dear Mama and He's Got a Baby, those records are the reason why people like Pac. So I think the East Coast definitely got love for Tupac. I think it's a misconception, and I really hate. Well, let me just say this. You know what I'm saying? Especially since we chopping it up. Pac was never really questioned as an MC, especially on the East Coast, until the East Coast, West Coast rap came up. Like I know when I would say who was nice, it was Biggie or Nas at that time, or then maybe later Jay-Z. it was never Pac. You know what I'm saying? That whole East Coast, West Coast beef kind of brought him into those conversations. So sometimes people hear y'all talking about, you know, the best of Big or the best of Nas or the best of Jay-Z, they throw in Pac in because of those situations. But I never put him in that category, basically. But I think overall, I think people got love for Pac on the East Coast.
All right. Ed, what you think, bro?
As far as people having love for Pac on the East Coast, I know a lot of cats. I know a lot of like die-hard Pac cats on the East Coast. I think that's a huge misconception on the fact of whether or not that exists on this side. I think I was as y'all know, but the world may not know. I was hoping that Vic would pop up on this joint because I know he's a huge Pac head. And he can go into like detail of some of the stuff that's beyond just pop music to build on. But coming off of that, I'll just say without question, me myself personally, I'm more of a fan of Pac the person than Pac's music. I never really got heavy into Pac. I like early Pac, and I love that. And I always talk about this. I love that article that he did with Bob right before when he was locked up. And some of the stuff that he was speaking about, I was really like excited for this cat to come out and do some music. But on a whole, it wasn't like, I'm not going to sit here in front like I was crazy or I was like really deep into Pac like that. I was never really deep into him, but I was always deep into his politics. His politics and just the way that he presented himself, and for the most part the way he presented himself. He had some points in times when he was like, he went into the like Vegas said, the whole like ride or die thing, and ride or die, I'm not against that, but like, just going like deep into the gangster shit, that really wasn't that's never been my thing. Like y'all know, I've never been a really big NWA fan. I was more of a Brand Nubian cat. So I could never really get with that side of it, but when it came to like, his black nationalist side, all the way, and even to this day, we were just sitting here talking about Kendrick's album and getting to that, but I think Pac is something that we'll be talking about for a very long time. But I think a lot of it's going to be, me personally, I think a lot of it will be him and his personal politics, and how he represented himself in that arena. To me, probably more so than the music so much.
All right, and what about you, Big?
I guess I have to piggyback on what Vegas and Ev said. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, maybe the people you're talking about, they talking to the wrong cats, because I know plenty of New York cats that love Pac, you know what I mean? But in the same vein, like they both said, and I would say myself, that it's more about Pac the man, you know what I'm saying? That, like what he stood for, how he got down, and that type of stuff. For me personally, it's like his music, aesthetically speaking, just wasn't ever pleasing to my ear. I'm not one. I don't really care for MCs that do all this stuff with their voices and all that. And Pac was on that, all that type of stuff. I never really was big on that, man. And I mean, like Brenda Got a Baby, I hated that song. Dear Mama, I couldn't stand that song. Just
you ain't like the positive joints, man.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing, and that's what I was about to say. That I think sometimes people get sucked in by things other than just, does the music sound good? You know what I'm saying? And for me, yeah, it's a nice message, no doubt. Although I didn't care for the line about mother being a crackhead and all that shit, whatever. But because you have a dope message doesn't mean it's dope to me. That doesn't move me to like the song per se or find it pleasing to my ear. It's like somebody trying to eat, a vegetarian food. It's good for you, but knowing that it's good for you doesn't make it taste any better. No, it has to taste pleasing to the palate. And Tupac, musically or whatever, he never, in the beginning, I was down when he was Tupacalypse, because I was, truth be told, I was one of the first cats that I know of from New York when I was at Morgan that was rocking with Pac. I remember I used to have a picture up on the wall, Tupacalypse, and every cat that I knew from New York or New Jersey, wherever I was coming to crib, like, yo, who's that cat? And I'm had to break it down, like, oh, you never heard this, da, da, da. I'm playing joints for them. Nobody ever heard of the cat. So I was already on Pac, because again, I knew about some of his personal shit, with his family, the black national shit, the Black Panthers, all that stuff. And please, nobody get it twisted. Assata Shakur is not his mother, okay? I hope that's been well understood by this point in time. I don't know how many arguments I got into with Cass and Morgan back in the day. Like, yo, Assata Shakur is not his mom's, dog. Stop it. So hopefully nobody's still thinking that. Number one. Number two, like I said, man, he was an ill cat. Really, I was on Pac crazily when he got into that shootout with the cops. I think it was in Houston or somewhere in Texas.
Out in Atlanta.
Yeah, and he shot back because them dudes never, acknowledged that they was cops or whatever. And like any cat from the hood, that's when his hood swagger just went over the top after that. Every cat from the hood just loved Pac. But I think that's the problem, that cats get his message and his attitude and his in your face to the establishment and get that twisted up and put that as a part of what makes his music sound good. You know what I mean? It's like Chuck D and Public Enemy sounded good and they had that message, but when they stopped sounding good, the message fell on deaf ears because you just musically wasn't listening to it no more. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate, but that's the case. But I think that's what happened with Pac for me personally. I mean, I loved Pac. I loved his music even in the very beginning. But when he started doing all these, these different styles and the way he's flowing, and then, like I said, the Brenda Got a Baby and all, I just couldn't rock with it musically. It wasn't pleasing to my ears, man. And he never did anything beyond that after that point that brought me back musically, like, yeah, I'm rocking with this joint. I mean, I would always give him a chance. I love listening to him speak. I'll watch a Tupac interview in a minute because I know he's going to say something worth listening to. But for me, musically, he just didn't do it for me, man, after his first album.
Right. And I think with me, it's kind of like, like what everybody just said. I like you said, because I almost rock with Pac, the man or the person, more than his music. Like you just said, you send me a Pac interview before you send me a Pac album. You know what I'm saying? And I'm definitely in it. I definitely want to hear it. I'm a little the opposite though, because I like Brenda Got a Baby. Never made a mixtape. It never got pumped in the car. You know what I mean? But it was a good message. I liked If My Homies Call, Tupacalypse, all that stuff. Same thing like you said, B. The shooting back at the cops, and even when he got into the rumble with the boy, the Hughes brothers, over some stuff that he had promised them. I definitely felt Pac was like a real dude. But for me, it's kind of like what Ed was saying with the Vibe piece. When he did the Vibe piece and he was like, yo, Life is dead. And, I was really anticipating. That's when I was really anticipating the next Tupac album. It's like when he gets out, I really think he's going to have, kind of like we did the show a couple of weeks ago, a while ago, we was talking about, you were saying how Beans, you would anticipate a new Beans album because just everything he's been through, like, what is this dude going to say? And I was really anticipating that from Pac. And then after the interview, the next time I saw him was on the California Love video shoot, and it was just like, yo, what happened? Like, what happened to the whole Thug Life is Dead? Like, you're throwing money down on the ground, you like fuck Biggie, fuck, like all that Thug Life stuff that you just said was dead was back. And I think that was like a huge like turn off for me. And then of course, like Vegas said, once the whole East to West Coast war came down, I'm like, yo, I'm East Coast, so I'm Biggie. Like, I wasn't hearing nothing Pac had to say at all against Big. But again, I would almost, say now I am coming back around to the side of the fence where it's like looking at, after he asked me this question, I'm looking at all the stuff. There are a lot of Pac songs that I rock with to the point that I may now be more a little bit open to hear a Tupac album. Because the one thing I always tell people is I've never heard a Pac album. I've never listened to an entire Pac album. Machiavelli, All Eyes on Me, I've never heard an entire Pac album. So even when people say Pac is better than Big, I can say, well, I disagree because I think Big is the best, but I really can't speak to that because I've never heard a Pac album. Now, with that being said, why do you think a lot of times Pac's name is brought up against Big? Like, a lot of times people always say who's better, Big or Pac. Do you think that comes from the East Coast, West Coast war? Where do you think that comes from? Ed, what you think?
I mean, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I think some of it can come from the East Coast, West Coast thing. I know, Pac saying that, Big kind of took some of his style. I can hear some of it, to be honest with you. I can hear some Pac influence in Big.
Now hold on, tell me that, because I was talking to my man Rollo a while ago, and he was saying that, and I don't really hear it. So when you say you hear it, like what things do you see that Big kind of took from Pac?
Well, I don't say he took from Pac. I think we all, influence is a thing. Like if you're a fan of something, it's easy to be influenced by. I think it's in the delivery. It's not in the writing. I think it's some of the delivery. Y'all can hear a little bit of Pac influence in there, but to me, it wasn't nothing to be like, yo, this cat stole my style. But I can hear influence. I can see Big being a Tupac fan, like, back in the day before he got put on there, and who knows when he was in, I don't know what the age gap is, but, who knows when he was going to high school or whatever the case may be. I think, that just happens. That's just part of just like, being an MC. Sometimes if you listen to something long enough, you're going to wind up, having something, any art actually, you're going to wind up having some of that in what you're producing. But I would say in the delivery more so than in the writing. But that was like, to me, that's like ready to die Big.
All right. Yeah. So your thing is like you don't see the correlation of Pac versus Big, because if Big is one of the best,
to me they're two different MCs. Like they're two completely different MCs still. Like, cause I mean the writing says a lot too. And like I said, even the little bit of influence that I can hear in Big is not enough for me to even compare them to. But I think just by default, because of the whole East Coast West Coast beef, the rest of the world got into this whole like who's better, Pac or Big. I'm a little bit stuck too, because just to put out, like, I'm a little bit stuck for the simple fact that I don't have enough of Pac in my discography, on my shelf to really break down and analyze what he's saying. But I would say that Pac gave you more. He definitely gave you more of what was going on in your social environment. What was happening more in the media and the news. He gave you some of that, but at the same time, you got some of the gangster shit too. So I don't know if cats are trying to compare that. And like Bezo said, you have Tupac and you're talking about the poet Tupac, and then you're talking about the MC. I do feel like Tupac is an MC though, no doubt. I'll definitely say that. But I think if you have the poetry Tupac and the MC Tupac, a lot of times I think people do want to take some of the poetry Tupac and put it into the MC Tupac, and all Tupac's music wasn't necessarily the way that his speaking or his writing was. Sometimes he did do some things for the popular market, and the popular market wasn't necessarily about like uplifting the community. So every song wasn't like that. So yeah, to answer your initial question, I'm really not sure where cats get that from. My speculation would be because of the whole East Coast West Coast thing, and it's easy to do that, to take two people from two different sides of the map, and it's like black and white, or positive and negative, and put them against each other and see what's better.
Right. All right, Vegas, what you think? I mean, we usually say who's the best rapper, Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas. Those three always connect. I've never, heard anything else, but I've never heard Tupac's name get into that who's the best MC, Biggie, Jay, or Nas, or Tupac. So where do you think that whole Big versus Pac thing came from?
I think it was a direct result of the whole East Coast West Coast thing. Like, soon as Hit 'Em Up came out, Pac fans and probably some West Coast fans, or Pac fans in general, just got into it, and Biggie fans felt like they had to defend their name. And I think it's just gotten to the point where, because of everything that happened, unfortunately, they're just kind of stuck together now. It's similar to when you look at the Jay-Z and Nas battle. Anytime, Jay drop or Nas drop, or Jay has a new business venture and people might say, oh, Nas lost or whatever, it's just like they're eternally linked now because of the battle thing, you know what I'm saying? And I don't think it ever came from anybody genuinely feeling like Big was better than Pac or Pac was better than Big, you know what I'm saying? I felt the same way. I felt like it was two artists that you really couldn't compare. I mean, there was times where you really couldn't compare Nas and Big, you know what I'm saying? Because they were just so different in how they approached it. But to the point of the whole influence, at first, you know, being from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and Gates Ave, and not living that far from where he grew up, hearing that was just blasphemous to me. But later on, you know, having heard some of the early Pac, the whole Ready to Die thing, I could see what Pac was talking about, because some of that did remind me somewhat of Pac. Maybe not initially, but when I went back and looked at, you know, Big's aggressiveness on the mic, and back in them days, like before he went to the more mellowed out flow, and the whole, you know, I'm ready to die, and you know, the guns, like it felt somewhat like an East Coast Pac, but not enough where I felt like he was taken from him. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel like he was stealing, and I didn't feel like there was that much of a connection. So it just seemed like once that whole beef started, then unfortunately once they both passed as a result, they just been forever linked. And I don't think it has anything to do with lyrics, really, or songs. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Now that's a good point. That's a good point. What you think, Big?
I mean, I was gonna say, same as I think Vegas just said, that I think it's all of it stems from that whole East Coast, West Coast. But to take it even further, I think that was the impetus for the East Coast, West Coast. Because like we talked about a few weeks ago with Suge, that again, I think this was Suge, that was Suge's plan from the get. It was something directed towards Puffy, and Big being Puff's artist, Big being, you know, like Big, you know, him being the biggest thing out the King of New York, all that stuff. You know, New York, the home of hip hop. And it's a funny shit, because Tupac is, yeah, you could say from the West Coast, but the nigga's from Baltimore. I mean, to me, wherever you go to high school is where you from. He went to high school in Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? So he's from Baltimore. He ain't really, yeah, he lived in Oakland, but I lived in Philly. I lived in Baltimore. I ain't from there. You know what I'm saying? I'm from New York, baby. So let's not people get it twisted. So when you take that into consideration, and then you take the Suge and Puff dynamic, I don't think there's any question that it was about that beef, and then people picking sides, like you either Tupac or you Biggie. Especially, you know, it divided the East Coast from the rest of the country pretty much, where it's like finally somebody was coming at a big time cat from New York's head from the West Coast. You know what I mean? From outside New York. So I think, like you said, man, that them two will eternally be linked because of the beef that started with them, that escalated into East Coast, West Coast, and it escalated into two of them being murdered. I think because of that, there's no getting around. People are just automatically gonna, you know, putting the two of them against one another till the day is done. It's never gonna change, I don't think. But I mean, to me, it's like, again, like I said about Pac and his different styles, and I never liked all that type of stuff. That just bothered me, man. That those weird voices and stuff people do with their rhymes, I hate that. And Big never did that. You know what I'm saying? Big never did that. You know, Big was just about spitting his lyrics. You know what I'm saying? So for people, I do see the influence. I do see it too. You know, from, again, because like I said, I was up on Pac from his first single, and if you hear that and then listen to some of that later Big, let's not forget Big's very first single. He had a whole other style, man. He was more like yelling, you know what I'm saying? He was rhyming a little bit faster. It was a whole different style. But then after he started fucking with Pac, he slowed it down, you know what I'm saying? He calmed his voice down. He got more mellow and chill with the lyrics, with his flow, whatever, his voice. But I wouldn't say he bit Tupac at all. I do think there was an influence, absolutely. But I mean, you know, look at Bad Boy, man. I mean, shit, you know, there's a reason why Puff put the baby picture on there, because Nas did it on Illmatic. You know what I'm saying? So I think all of that is why cats, there's a lot of cats, even New York cats, I think, that don't like Puff. So I think you add all of these other people into the mix, man, Suge and Puff and all that East Coast, West Coast. That's where you get that, man, where people just automatically want to compare the two. But to me, musically, lyrically, as MCs, I don't think they're comparable. It's like comparing KRS to Chuck D. You know what I'm saying? If somebody asks you, yo, who will win in the battle, Chuck or Chris, 99% of people are going to say Chris. That's not a knock on Chuck, but Chuck is a different type of MC. You know what I mean? Like we said before, way back, that I almost put Public Enemy in their own category. It's kind of the same way for me with Pac, man. I see him more as a poet who decided to be an MC, who was from the hood and was from the street and lived some real, you know, some 60s, his parents with the Black Panthers and all that. So he had a different kind of tone and attitude about him at the time, because it was after Public Enemy, X-Clan, you know, all them type of pro-black, real militant groups was out. And Pac was like the new generation of that shit, you know what I mean? So, and again, man, I mean, people might walk away from this show and think that we got hate or I got hate for Pac, but I got love for the cat, man. It's just that musically, he just ain't touched me like that. You know, the man Tupac, yes, but not the music, no.
Yeah, and I think Vegas, you brought up a good point, just saying like they're eternally linked, and it really has nothing to do with lyrics. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's a huge point that I never thought about before. Is that's just it. Like you said, you're right with Nas and Jay. Anytime Jay come out with the title joint, it's like Nas lost. You know what I mean? It's just like you said, these two are just forever linked through that battle, and because I never got it. I mean, I never even saw the competition with it, and I think, like you said, Bezo, with KRS and Chuck, nobody would compare it, but I think with Pac, it may be comparable because he came at Big's neck like that, you know, with the whole hit 'em up. You know what I mean? Like with Chuck D, I never looked at Chuck as like a battle rapper, whereas when that hit 'em up came out, like that was like that. I think that kind of what sparked it towards the two. But I mean, I don't see it. I think one of my things with Pac that for a while kind of bothered me was like I almost felt like Pac was a hypocrite at times. You know what I mean? Because one minute it was, you know, I'm pro-black, and the next minute I'm this, and the next minute I'm that. And then one day my man Justin from Milwaukee got at me, and he was like, well, Kill, you know, Pac kind of just represents the everyday man, because he was like, Kill, I know you go to church, but, you know, truth be told, you still curse, you still do your things. Maybe one day you feel like making this kind of song, and one day you feel like making that kind of song. And after he broke that down to me, it kind of made me look at Pac a little bit different, that maybe, yeah, you're not necessarily a hypocrite, which was one of my knocks against him, was this dude was a hypocrite. Like, I don't ever know who I'm going to get. But after hearing that, it kind of made me look at him a little bit different. But for you all, did that matter? Did it matter that Pac kind of was different people at different times? Some people even said, I've heard people say that after he did Juice, like, he became Bishop and he just stayed Bishop. Like, he got into that character so much and he never came out of that character, because once he came over to New York and the quad shooting and the picture of him, you know, spitting at people and everything like that, you know, it just was a whole nother picture of Pac. So I guess my question is, did that bother you that Pac was different people, and do you think that is what happened? He got in the Bishop and he was like, yo, this is who I want to be, because the Pac at the end didn't seem like Pac with Digital Underground. Two totally different people. So how do y'all feel about that? What do you think, Vegas?
I agree. I think, like I said in the beginning, I was a fan who with me when the whole East Coast West Coast thing started, because that was the argument for Pac fans was, yo, Big not talking about, you know, the struggle of the black woman or this or that. And I used to be like, but yeah, on the next song, you talking about he want to ride on these bitches. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? The contradictions also got to me. But then when I look back at a lot of MCs, probably not so much back in the days, because, you know, dudes kind of stuck in their own lane. But I always bring up a dude like DMX, where when I hated DMX when he came out. And dudes would just be like, oh, but he got the prayer, he got this, that, and third. I'm like, yeah, but he just had a song where he said, gonna bust you in your head, you won't feel shit. Like, what, right. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you argue that? You know what I'm saying? But I think it didn't bother me as much. And this was one point I meant to make before on the previous question. Like how we all felt when we first heard the Tunnel freestyle. Did we even compare Big's verse to Pac's verse? Nah, they was just separately dope. You know what I'm saying? Pac was talking something else. Big was doing, you know, what some of us are familiar with on the East Coast, and as far as, you know, where the Brooklyn at and all that. But it wasn't until after where everything came analyzed, and I felt like you said, with Pac, I don't know if it was the movie or what, but I think it was just his goal, and probably more Suge Knight's goal than anything, to just go at Bad Boy that hard, because when you brought that up, it just made me think like, all right, well, Pac wasn't with Death Row when Social War happened. and there wasn't really no fallout after that, besides maybe the LA video. But I watched an interview where Corrupt said that it wasn't even about kicking over buildings originally. It wasn't until they got shot at that they did that video. You know what I'm saying? And then and they figured it was all connected. So Pac was coming out as the voice, like, all right, you know, we still a little too quiet over here on Death Row. Maybe Snoop don't want to do it, Corrupt don't want to do it, Daz don't want to do it, so I'm gonna do it. And them fans were just ready, like, you know, fuck Bad Boy and Puffy and Big, and it just got ugly. But I never really looked at Pac as somebody who contradicted himself. That just came up to me when people were arguing in the beginning, when it was just like they could only focus on the positive parts, and I'm like, yeah, but half that album is the negative. He contradicts every message that he left. You know what I'm saying? Like, you wonder why they call you bitch, dear mama, or, you know what I'm saying? It was always a counterpoint, but like you said, we all kind of live with contradictions. So, like you said, it just makes it easier to listen to him and other artists when you think of it in a human aspect.
Right. What you think, Ev? Do you think, did that bother you? Like, it was like Pac is different people? Do you feel like Pac got into a character and just that's where he stayed at?
Well, to answer your questions, I'll start with that one. I don't know whether or not he got into a character and that's where he stayed at. I think, to me, when you grow up under Black Panthers, and I mean, like, really grow up with that, you know, instilled into you in your childhood, I think what we got in the beginning probably wasn't maybe as comfortable as Tupac wanted to be himself. So I think as you got deeper into it and you got more into that you know, that anger, then you got more of who Tupac is. So I wouldn't say he got into a character and went with it. That's just, you know, my personal opinion. But I feel like I just want to say this, that I will say that one of the biggest letdowns for me was, because I've never really been into hearing a person's album from an interview. Like, I never heard a single, never heard nothing. But that interview, I still to this day I remember the interview. Reading that interview and the vibe and everything that he was talking about really opened me up. So when he came out, I was ready to hear like that, what he was talking about in an interview. And of course I got, you know, it was something different. So for me, that was kind of like a little bit, not even a little bit, it was a letdown. But I don't hold that against him, because, truth be told, you know, we as men, we all grow. And, you know, you got to go through changes. And the fact that you can be honest with that, I appreciate it. Because people say the same thing about Malcolm X. You know, Malcolm X went through changes. He went from one shift to another shift to another shift. But that was the growth. KRS-One does the same thing. KRS-One did a couple of shifts in his career. But I think it's just the fact of the growth. Now, where Pac shifted to, just musically, it didn't touch me, it didn't move me, so I wasn't gravitated toward it. But you know, as far as him being a character all the time, I want to say no. I want to say some of that was probably just what was instilled. I want to say some of that was him dealing with what's happening around him. You know, when you are, I mean, Pac was in the media, on the law side a lot. You know, them cats was, you know, they wasn't like they wasn't coming for him or wasn't giving him hassles. You know, so I think, you know, after you get enough of that, that's going to change who you are. I mean, shit, look at Lauryn Hill. You know, she's not the same, like, you know, I Love the World person that we saw, you know, years ago. She's a different person now because of all these different conflicts that come at your front door in front of you. So I think he's, you know, him being a product of that, and, you know, that changing his personality. Yeah, I can see that. The gangster shit and all the bitch shit, that's not for me personally. So I couldn't gravitate with the brother when he went that way.
Right. What about you, B? You had a problem with Pac being, like Vegas said, like a DMX praying 1 minute, then I'm gonna bust you in the head the next, or did that affect how you felt about Pac as an MC and the music he put out?
Yeah, it absolutely did. It absolutely made me feel like he was a hypocrite. I mean, to what Ev just said about, you know, growing and stuff. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I say that I can't say Big is the greatest MC, because unfortunately I didn't get to see him grow as an MC. I didn't get to see him become a man musically or whatever. You know what I'm saying? He got taken from us too soon. But with Pac, it was almost like he grew in multiple directions. He like grew up and sideways and back that way and down a little bit, because he went from being this militant, pro-black, I'm for my people, to sometimes I'm doing that. Other time I'm trying to kill y'all niggas. I'm trying to harm y'all bitches. I'm trying to do all this. Like, the dog. If you pull that, if you decide to wear that title, to wear that mantra of being like this spokesperson for black nationalism or whatever you want to call that, you know, black power, whatever, then there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. You never heard Chuck or X-Clan and them type of groups, you know, one song they talking about fight the power, the next song I'm a kill that nigga over that package. You know what I mean? You're not going to hear that. Now, I'm not going to excuse Tupac of that, because, you know, a million other MCs are doing it. That doesn't make Tupac any better. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like with Mobb Deep, Prodigy has always been on that extra over-the-top shit, but there are times in his rhymes where he has said, like, yeah, but this lifestyle's fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, yeah, I'm doing this, but it ain't right. But does that mean that he then is a better dude lyrically as a person, because he's telling you, well, yeah, I murdered him, I shot at him, I did this, but it ain't good? Nah, I'm not going to give that to Prodigy for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to just wash away everything he said about what he did. And I can't do that for Pac either. I'm sorry. You know, it's like, you made that decision to be that dude, then you got to understand, being that dude comes with certain responsibility. But I do think that, again, man, I hate to keep bringing the cat's name up, man, but I think Suge had a tremendous impact on that, because like y'all said, I mean, I don't know if y'all seen the interview, I mean, not an interview, so, it was an interview, but I think it's from some documentary on Pac, where it was his pops or his stepfather or whoever, and they interviewing him, and he's talking about where he met with Pac. Pac came to see him not long before he got out of jail or whatever, I mean, before he got killed or whatever, and he asked him, like, you know, what's going on? What is this thug life shit, man? You got to stop that. And he was like, you know, Pac was on some real, like, fuck the world, fuck the crew, you know, fuck everybody type of thing. But after talking to his father, stepfather, whoever he was, you know, he came back with a whole different meaning behind thug life, where it was like breaking each letter down, meaning something positive. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and then that's when, around that time, is when the Vibe magazine interview was done, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, same way as y'all, when I read the Vibe, I'm like, oh, okay, this is the Pac from Tupacalypse. This is the cat that I've been waiting on, that was out there shooting at cops and handling his business in the street. Okay. And then California Love, it's not a coincidence that was the first single. You know what I mean? That was Suge putting his stamp on the East Coast, West Coast. Like, look, we got one of y'all's cats that's from the East Coast, really. You know, he really from your side, but he down with us. And I don't think that's not a coincidence. It's not you know, by chance. That was by design. And I think that, unfortunately for Tupac, because he had become so popular, and there's that word pop, that it was like, you know, you get to a certain level of success in celebrity success, there's a cap on how far above that you can go in terms of what comes out your mouth and whatnot. And because Pac had got bailed out by Suge, with Suge's lawyer, he just signed a blank piece of paper and had them fill in the terms of the contract afterwards. Suge had Pac by the balls, man, straight up. So anything Suge wanted, Pac had no choice but to do it and go wrong. So I think it would be naive of us to think that, you know, Tupac, the cat that we love in interviews, that he shows us his intelligence, his mindset, what he's really about. But then after he gives this deep interview about where he wants to take things and how he sees the world now and all this and that, he comes right back out with that shit. Come on, that's not a good.
I agree with you, but I guess let me ask you this: does the whole thing, like I said, my man Justin saying, like, well, you know, that's the everyday man. You know, one day you are praying, but then the next day, if something has to go down, you're ready to handle your business. And the reason why I'm asking that is because I understand what you're saying. Once you put that mantra on your back of I'm going to be this black militant, but I mean, you can say that about King. King was out here banging chicks on Coretta. So you
and I do. And that's why I didn't rock with Martin Luther King. That's one reason why I don't fuck with Martin Luther King.
But I guess my question is, do you know a person who's gonna be perfect? Do you know
that doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? We all have our liabilities, our shortcomings, our strengths, our weaknesses. No doubt. But that's why I said that it's you know, you can't lose sight of this, that to say the everyday man, but yo, fam, you on TV, you on the radio, you are not the everyday man. No matter how hard you may try to portray. Hold, let me finish. You're not, even though you may try to portray that, you may have been at one point in your life the everyday man. Unfortunately, because of celebrity and how it's revered and beloved in this country, once you become a celebrity, you are no longer the everyday man. You don't, me and you can't just walk up to some club and just, hey, Kill and Beer here, come on in, y'all. No, we can't walk into a restaurant or a sneaker store and cats is just bringing us shit like, yo, Kill, try these on. No, you know, we're not that dude. So when you take that responsibility to be that dude, then yo, you got to eat whatever comes with that. And I'm not saying you got to be perfect. Everybody's going to make mistakes, but it's one thing, you know, where you could be a religious, a righteous person, but you driving on the road, somebody cuts you off, runs you off the side of the road, and you cursing, you know, for the first time. Yeah, that's understandable. You have reason to be upset, but it's another thing when you have decided to be this individual, to be this person to your people or whatever, and then you have this power. You have people who beloved you, who revere you, who look up to you, and on one sense you're saying some pro-black shit, then the very next sentence out your mouth is some nigga kill fuck a bitch type of shit. Come on, dog. That is too drastic of a dichotomy in who you are as an individual. It's like, dog, which one are you? But having said that, my point was that I do think that Tupac unfortunately got wrapped up in the pop shit, and not by his own design, but dealing with Suge, man, and that him coming out of jail on a blank piece of paper with his signature, having him fill in the terms afterwards, man, yo, you got to think about how much control that gave Suge and Death Row over everything. Tupac, I mean, I'm sure y'all heard that when he got out of jail, he was in the studio every day for like 3 months, whatever, and recorded like 3, 4, 5 albums worth of music. Because Suge knew this nigga ain't gonna be around long, and that was my problem with Pac. I kept telling niggas like, yo, this nigga's talking himself to death, dog. I kept saying to cats like, yo, I got love for this cat as a man, but I'm like, man, he's talking himself to death. And niggas be like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dog, he's talking too much about his own death and about this and that. He's just like, you know, the power of positive thinking. He's doing that. He's bringing that shit on him, man. He needs to chill with that and go back to being the nigga who can see the positive in his people, who make it bring out a baby and that type of shit.
Let me ask this then. So from that, since I think we all can agree on that Suge had him, you know, you're in jail, Suge is gonna bail you out. You basically sold your soul to the devil, you know, what a lot of people have said. And again, I've never been in that position. I can't say I would have done that. Does that give you any leeway? So Vegas, if you felt some kind of way about Pac going from this Pac to that Pac, does that give you any leeway that, yeah, he basically, you know, his bought his mom a crib, all that stuff. Does that give you any kind of leeway to say, okay, well, you know what? I see why he's doing it. So almost like I give him a pass because I know this really isn't him. Vegas, how do you feel about that?
Y'all can hear me?
Yeah, you good.
All right. I felt like I definitely felt like it was a Death Row influence because, like, even back then we knew about the environment Dre and Snoop and all of them were recorded in, and how wild it was with all the gang members and all that. And then we learned even more with the documentaries. And like you said, you know, having Tupac on this deal where he can't do nothing, he gotta do everything he's told, and he's being used kind of somewhat as a tool to ride on Bad Boy and all of that. Like in the beginning, I didn't like any of it for the most part because, you know, I felt like it was a ploy. I didn't know if it was a ploy to sell records. I didn't think he needed that. It might have been a ploy for Death Row to sell more records, more than just Pac selling more records. But at the same time, I never really put much of that on Pac because I kind of felt like some of that he was saying and doing was always there. And I feel like jail and the getting shot and the rape case and all of that was just a product of what had happened to him. He was putting it into his music. Like I said, I like the Dear Mama, Me Against the World album, but I really like the All Eyes on Me album, which had some East Coast dudes on it, with Redman and Method Man was on it, because it just kind of felt like Pac was branching out musically as far as doing a whole bunch of different stuff. And it wasn't just all the diss records. Like Machiavelli probably had more diss records than All Eyes on Me did. But I never really looked at Pac coming out and doing that as, oh, well, I'm going to give him a pass because this, that, and the third. I just felt at that time like he's kind of like Bishop now. But Bishop just didn't have a militant side. But, he's letting that Bishop side out. And I don't know if it's the role or it's the environment or, what may have happened or may not have happened in prison. Like, I didn't know what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a product of his environment at the time. And, you know what I'm saying? You hang around a bunch of gangbangers and criminals and, you know what I'm saying? I don't think much positive music is going to come out of that. You know what I'm saying? When, you got to watch your back because you with this dude. You know what I'm saying? Or, you say a line about a gun and he get hyped and you're like, well, maybe I'll write a little bit more of that for him. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have much of a problem with it. Like I said, I wasn't the biggest Pac fan, so it was kind of whatever will he released. But I still feel like at that point I started looking like, well, a lot of these rappers tend to contradict themselves, and I just think it was more stern back in the day when you had a lane to stay in, you stayed in it. And I absolutely agree with the notion of him not being perfect, but at the same time having to stick to what he came out with. Because it's different if he come out on some straight up gangbang stuff, straight out the gate, some gangster shit, straight out the gate, and then he eventually goes into some more positive music. That's more growth than regressing, where you're mostly known as a positive rapper and then now you're coming out and you're saying things to contradict that. So it's just a different spotlight when it comes to celebrities, to hip hop artists in general, where we as fans, we looking at the growth. Sometimes we want you to remain the same, sometimes we want you to grow. Pac, like you said, he was going up, he was going down, he was going sideways, and I think that's what some people loved about him. But like I was old school, so I'm like, what is this nigga doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just going crazy. But it was entertaining, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, it just didn't end, in a way that he could still be here with us. So
I think it's because it's funny. It's almost like you said, some people like the up and down and in between and all of that. And it's almost like the very reason some people loved them, it was like other people didn't like them for the very same thing. So, what do you give a pass to do because, the whole Suge situation? And is there now, I understand how you felt because I was with you when the Vibe piece came out, but now kind of getting a bigger, better understanding of the big picture. Do you kind of hold that against him, or was it like, yo, the dude's hands was tied, he had to get out of jail, he just had to do what he had to do type thing?
No, I think, well, first, it sounds like it's two questions, but I'll say, no, I don't hold anything against him. I think that, and I'm glad that I didn't, because it is about the big picture. I think, if I was to hold it against him, then I would have missed some of the other things that Tupac had to say outside of the music. And I think if I was to hold anything against him, then I would miss some of the positive message. Yes, it was a complete 180 that he was doing at times. And, I'm not going to sit here and speculate to the reasons why he was doing it. If he just, he just wanted to get out of jail or want to do his own thing, and maybe he wanted to, maybe he was going to, I can start making assumptions like, well, maybe he was going to step away from Suge and, come out and do his thing again, and maybe Suge didn't like that, or whatever the case may be, and go down that lane with it. But I think, again, I always go back to just the growth of a man, especially as a black man. You're gonna have some potholes you're gonna fall in, and it's not for me to sit and hold that against you. If you're gonna give me some positive, then I want the positive. If you're gonna give me negative, then I'm gonna leave it at the table, because I don't need that. But I'm always going to give you space to change and to grow in a positive light. That's just what I'm. You're always going to have that. Unfortunately, that didn't change. I mean, unfortunately for me, purchasing his music, yeah, for me it was like, oh, when I heard that, it was like, okay, that's not nothing I want to hear. So I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna rock to it like that, because that's not the kind of music I'm into. But I feel like Pac was battling with himself, and I feel like a lot of MCs do it. I feel like Jay does it. A lot of cats have that thing where they really battle with themselves. They have their own demons. Their demons are within, not external, and they fight them. And because of that, you get some different personalities at times. You get some cats that's real cool and real positive, and you get some cats that, because they're in certain crowds, they want to act like what that crowd is doing. And unfortunately, that could be something to the more ignorant side of things. But to go back to my first message, I'm glad I didn't do that, because I didn't want to miss the positive things that Pac had to say, and the positive. I think Pac was a genius too. I think his ways of thinking and his ways of thinking on Black community were excellent. I think he even listening to the Kendrick joint and some of the stuff he said then, he hit the nail right on the head. And this is stuff that's happening today. But I feel like, if I would have like kind of looked at him sideways because of what road he went down, I would have missed that whole thing. And like I said, I feel like a lot of cats did it. I feel like a lot of MCs did it, but unfortunately they had time to come out and do more music and kind of, reestablish themselves or paint a better picture.
Right. And that's one of the things I was going to bring up, because I always, I don't think there's ever any documented proof of it, but you always heard all the rumblings of Pac wanting to get off death row. You know what I mean? Like towards the end, like right before he was killed, like this whole thing was Pac wanted to get off death row. He was tired of this. He wanted to go on and kind of do music he wanted to do. And I think, Beasley, you brought up a good point, because it made me think of like Pac being pulled in 10 different directions from 10 different people. Or like Vegas said, if you're in the studio around a bunch of gangsters, you do want to make some songs for them, but then you also want to really do what you want to do and all these things. So the thing that kind of got me is like, and we talked about this when the whole Ferguson thing happened, and when Ferguson happened, the first thing I thought of was, damn, I wish Pac was here. And it was kind of bug for me to say that, because to me it kind of showed how much I love the man versus the music almost. You know what I mean? Because I kind of felt like if Pac was here, it's almost like Pac was like your big brother. Pac was like your crew. Like, y'all wouldn't be talking this shit if Pac was here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if Pac was here, he would have been at Ferguson day one. He would have been in Florida, Trayvon Martin. He would have been out there with Oscar Grant out in Oakland, with the Bart Cop and all that. He would have been there firsthand. And, it's, I guess for me, like I always say, like a lot of Pac's music, when I say music, I mean beat-wise, because there were, I love I Get Around. There were Pac songs that I do love. Like, it's not, I never want to come off like, oh, Pac didn't have nothing. There were a lot of Pac songs I like. He had this joint Pain off the Above the Rim movie. It didn't make the soundtrack, and I brought the soundtrack just for that. But the beat was crazy. Pac was killing it. I loved it. So I think for me, it was just Pac's beats. But all of that to just kind of wrap it up to say, like, do you believe in that, like that Pac wanted off of death row, and not too many conspiracy theories, because I was thinking about this in the ride home, and I'm like, yo, Pac was, and at times, like you said that through that Kendrick interview, it's like, yo, this dude was like light years ahead of.
Can I ask you a quick question before we go to the last point, just on the last thing you're talking about? And I'm gonna go kind of left field with it. I'm gonna step out a little bit. If you think about the whole idea of preaching to the choir, like, if I think about it like that, could it possibly be that Pac was doing some of that more ignorant shit to grab those cats' ears that was in the hood like that? Because to me, like, the fact that Ferguson goes down, the first thing you think is, man, if Pac was there, I wouldn't be doing that. You don't do that by yourself. You do that with some type of support and strength and muscle behind you. So do y'all think that maybe like he was doing some of that shit because, if I give you enough of this, I can get your ear and you'll hear some of this other positive shit that I got going on in here? I know it's like
that's an actual dope question. Vegas, what do you think about that?
I think it's definitely possible because it, like you said, it wasn't like every interview he did was a hit 'em up style interview. The majority of the time it was the positive Pac. You know what I'm saying? It was the righteous Pac that you guys saw. I could easily see him thinking, all right, you know, I got these brothers around me. I could drop gems on them in the studio or out here and there, and you know, make them open up a little bit more to my messages and my music. Because even when you look at the stuff he released, or not he released, but Death Row or whatever released after the fact, the other songs that he was recording, it's more righteous, positive, conscious music that came out after his death. You know what I'm saying? To say that, you know, that's probably more of who he was, but maybe the thug life part, the negative side of it was selling more. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's what Death Row wanted more of, Suge Knight. So I could see Pac doing that because, like you said, you know, he had that album that was supposed to come out with like Buckshot and all of them on there, and it was supposed to be like this, you know, coming together the East and West Coast, and so it's kind of like he never really changed as far as internally, but I think some of those records were just business. You know what I'm saying? Well, we know All Eyes on Me and Machiavelli could have just been positive vibes and messages, and you know, somebody could have came in and be like, nah, man, we need another hit 'em up, we need Against All Odds, first Go at Nas, Fuji. You know what I'm saying? That could have been ordered. It's similar to like when you look at movies or whatever, like the original Spider-Man trilogy. Like I'll be watching this podcast, and they always talk about, you know, how the third movie was trash, but it was because the studio wanted more villains so they could sell more toys. And it wasn't that the director and the actors all of a sudden got whacked. It was just the outside influences. It's like, nah, this is big. All the attention is here, and this is what they like. You need to do this, and that's probably what influenced some of that stuff. But yeah, man, like I said, man, it's hard. Like for those people, what's the name of the dude? Eat lunch early, or whatever his name was. That brought up the question. What
the cheese? Hollow. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you know, like it's not really like any people on the East Coast that don't have love for Pac. That's the complete opposite. It's just that, you know, they love Big because he was from the East Coast, and people love Big because from Brooklyn, because he's from Brooklyn. But Pac was basically from the East Coast, and a lot of his fame started on this side. As far as, you know, like the movies, those movies were done over here, and it just was a case where, you know, that whole beef thing and the Source Awards, that just became the story. And people stopped listening to the music and just was looking for the next disc coming from, you know, either side. So.
Right. Nah, and I mean, I think for me, that's a dope question, and it makes me think because it's like it's something that Kendrick said, you know, when he's talking about, you know, I'm the only dude next to Snoop that can push the button, you know, had the Coast on standby. I felt like that was Pac first. You know, I felt like Pac, Pac had an army behind him. And I really feel like if Pac would have been like, yo, go out there and kill some folk on the East Coast of New York, I think Pac could have been like Prop Joe on The Wire, like get rid of these New York boys, and there would have been some Bloods and Crips out there like Chris and Snoop, like running up on niggas with Yankee hats, like I think Pac had that power, and you bring up a great point because I don't know if you get that power and you get that coast behind you, making out a baby, and you know, keep your head up and all these positive songs. I think you get that coast behind you because they feel like Beezel, like you said, his hood status went up. You shooting that white cop, yo, you good. You know, like that's what made so many people in the hood really follow behind Pac. So I mean, I think that's a good question, and maybe he did. Maybe it was like I gotta trick y'all. You know, I gotta trick y'all. I gotta get y'all by speaking your language. But then once I got y'all, I'm gonna drop these gems on you. But the sad part is, you know, we'll never really know. You know, we'll never know the bigger picture of Pac, because if he really was trying to get off death row, it's almost like, well, what was coming next? You know, was he just trying to get off death row because, you know, he was tired of making that kind of music? Was like, I mean, if you haven't read the book, read Have Gun Real Travel by Ron and Roe. I mean, you'll hear about all the crazy stuff that was going on out there in death row when, you know, these cats was during that time period. But Beezer, what do you think? Do you think Pac was doing that just to get the coast behind him?
I mean, anything is possible. I mean, you know, the dude was an intelligent cat. But at the same time, the same individual made some of these other bad choices too. So, you know, I'm not gonna go out on a limb and say that, yeah, that's what he was doing. Is it possible? Of course. I mean, because I think he showed his other side of himself, that was an intelligent dude. But, you know, I mean, he made that choice to sign that deal. I mean, shit. How desperate could you be that, I mean, right now, I'm not in jail. If Dr. Dre came to me like, yo, B, I want to sign you to a production deal, sign this piece of paper, I'm not signing that shit. No matter how desperate I want that deal. You know what I'm saying? So even if I'm locked up, you still got to maintain your level of intellect and knowing. I'm sure it wasn't like Pac was a new cat to the game at that point. Like, he was just coming out. He had been out. You know what I'm saying? He'd been through the rigors of the industry and all that. So it's like, is it possible? Yeah, but I mean, to say one thing though, I didn't know that it was like rumor, innuendo. I mean, I thought it was kind of well known that he was trying to get off death row, just like Big was in talks trying to get off a Bad Boy. You know what I'm saying? Before he got killed.
And see, I guess the thing with that is, where did cats get that from? Like, I'm an avid XXL source. This is pre-internet. I've never seen that anywhere in print, that Big was trying to get off Bad Boy or Pac was trying to get off death row. So, like, where did cats hear these things at?
Well, for me, some of the big shit I heard from cats out there. You know what I mean? From the learning and shit, talking about this shit. And but with the Tupac shit, again, I don't know what documentary the shit was, man, but I do remember seeing a documentary where they were talking about, one of the cats was talking about, like, it was, what's his man from Oakland that, like, was down with his crew, was like his cousin, his family, some shit. I forget the dude's name and shit. Pac always talked about him or whatever.
It's more like, it's more inside.
Yeah, but the dude actually said, like, you know, he had hired a lawyer.
But I mean, like, this is post death, right? Like, this isn't.
This was like discussing Pac after his death, but he was like, yeah, he had an attorney. You know what I'm saying? He was getting the paperwork drawn up. You know what I'm saying? And Suge and the lawyer dude, like, they were aware of what was going on. That he was in works to trying to figure out how to get out of death row for whatever reason. I mean, if for nothing else, and I'm sure just because that deal was so one-sided, but, you know, I would hope that it was because he was sincere about what he really wanted to try to do. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, Suge being Suge, man, I mean, that dude, he's, you know, I'm not gonna say he's the devil, man, but, you know, I don't get into all that shit, but that dude got the hand of somebody, the black hand of death, protecting him, watching over him, because he just got too much of that negative energy with him, man. And even in that same joint, I think it was Corrupt who said it, like, the minute he heard Pac got murdered, he was like, look, they all looked around the room like, they said it was Suge. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that dude, I think Suge is the one, to me, that really, really kind of got him off the rails, man, and kept Pac away from where he was destined, where he wanted to at least go. I think it was Suge had a major hand in that shit, man. And for whatever reason, man, Pac, to some extent, let it happen, man, by signing that deal in the first place.
Right. Nah, I feel you. What's good, Vic? You good?
Yo, what's up, young man? I'm good. What's up, peoples?
Nothing, man. We just sitting here chopping up about Pac. You know what I mean? You coming in on the tail end, so
yeah.
You know. But what we were talking about, Ev was saying, we were having a conversation. Ev was talking about, is it possible that we were kind of talking about, like, the hypocrite Pac? You know, the 1 minute hit him up, the next minute positive, and Ev was questioning, you know, could that have been done to get the coast behind him, to get the cats in the hood to rally behind him? Because, you know, the positive songs, the Brenda Got a Baby, Keep Your Head Up, that may have not have given him as much power, you know, that he had. What do you think about that, Vic?
Me and Ev built on that early. You know, we were talking about, you know, at that time I got introduced to Pac, and believe me, I fought it all the way coming from the East Coast. But, you know, out in Cali, this cat was humongous, man. I don't, you know, I think it's, you know, that the media at that time, when they had that East Coast, West Coast thing jumping off, it totally did a disservice to what this cat really had going on in the Western Hemisphere, man. I mean, the cat was, trust me, man, when I say huge, he was humongous out there. I think the hits, you know, I was telling Ev that today, and we don't have anybody from Northern or Southern California on here, but I was telling Ev that today is like, you flipped it, like where Biggie out on the West Coast was almost, and this is what I'm about to say is really controversial, but listening to Biggie on the West Coast was like listening to disco music. Everywhere I went, you know, you would get a couple cuts, but they be like, man, throw that Pac on. You know, you got to put that Pac on. So, you know, the hits that we might have got, I mean, you got to take it. Again, I'm coming in late, folks, but, you know, you had 3 versions of Tupac. We never really got that with Biggie. You had Tupac TPAC, Tupac with Mo Preem and them cats. You had Tupac with, you know, Digital Underground Pac. Then he came out here, he had did the joint, you know, with Easy Mo B. That album is a whole nother Pac.
But Vic, let me ask you this. Is that a good thing? Because the way you said it was like, we got 3 different Pacs. We didn't get that with Big, but is having 3 different Pacs actually a good thing?
I think it was, man, because how many, I mean, y'all being artists, how many times you truly get to reinvent yourself, man? You know, Big,
I guess that's the question. Reinvention ain't always a good thing.
I think in this case, it was because, I mean, if we get into street music, man, you know, again, taking it to, you know, he not only was he big out here, but Ev having been out there to California, and I'm asking Ev this question now. I mean, you lived out there. I mean, you've seen how big and diverse the hip hop culture was in just one state.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, because the thing is, a lot of times people forget that, you know, we look at the East Coast, we're looking at so many different states. Out there is one state, but it's still the same amount of land. So it's still going to be split up so many different kinds of ways that you're going to get, you know, everything from your LA, your Valley music, you know, I haven't even gone to Oakland and to San Diego, and then outside of Oakland, you know, you got so many different types of music out there.
And for this cat to be in the center of all that, like I'm even asking, like, have they done a Tupac hologram show on the East Coast? I mean, cats are still going to see a hologram out there. Like, that's huge, you know, and out on the West Coast, California in particular. So I think, you know, to answer your question, for him to be, yeah, I think he was one of the few cats to be able to pull that off. I mean, I'm thinking in the strain of, like, the only other cat I could think of that jump out of rap music was like Miles Davis. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be able to pull off a totally, you know what I mean, I'm gonna rock to a different crowd.
Well, let me ask you this. How are you defining the 3 different Pacs? So the Pac from Digital Underground is what? Versus the Pac that's the 2 PAC versus Mac. Like, what are the positives of these changes?
I think the 2 PAC, Tupac, you know, he wasn't too straight from home. If you really get into that music, Tupacalypse Now and Thug Life, you know, the titles are misleading. There's a lot of Public Enemy type positive black man music in that. Then you got the Tupac, the early Tupac. I don't know the names of the first 2 albums, but you know, I
got because I actually broke it down. You got Tupacalypse Now, that was 91. That's Brenda Got a Baby If My Homies Call. That's the joint that went gold. You got Strictly For My Niggas. That was 93. That's Holla If You Hear Me, Keep Your Head Up, I Get Around. That went platinum. Then you had Me Against the World. That was 95. Dear Mama and So Many Tears. That went 3 times platinum. Then post, after getting out of jail, you had All Eyes on Me, which was 96. California Love, How You Want It, I Ain't Mad at You. That went diamond. And then the Don Illuminati Machiavelli, 7-Day Theory, that was 96. Hail Mary, Me and My Girlfriend, To Live and Die in L.A., that went 4 times platinum.
I mean, it's the the titles, the songs, the album covers, everything. I mean, you could just tell, man. It just was, to me, it just was like some different things going on. I mean, you had the early Pac, like I said. You had this young guy, man. He's coming from Northern California. I had the chance to go out there in the early '90s, man. The gang banging thing and that whole whatever they had going on out there, believe it or not, was for real. Up to leading to Rodney King. Then he gets with after that point he comes back to the East Coast. The Biggie, the Nas thing had jumped out. Okay, I'm gonna do some pop rap music. He was able to jump into that successfully enough to the point where people, like you said, the one album went diamond.
But I guess that's the question. Is it good to jump out there and do pop rap? Because we kill other niggas for that. We kill people if you want to go pop. Like, it's like, oh, where'd that come from?
No, but you know what we do? But we didn't do that with Jay-Z. And the cats didn't do that with Big either, because both of them did that.
I feel like we did it with, I know I did it with Jay. There was a point where I was like, I'm done with Jay. Like, Jay's not making the kind of music that I like anymore. That was probably around that Hard Knock Life album. Like, after the first
What about Big, though? Because we didn't do that with Big.
I mean, with Big,
most people did it. I didn't know that.
But what would you classify as like Big's pop joints?
The Ready to Life After Death, because I never bought it.
Yeah. But see, that's the problem with
I guess that's the thing. Did you listen to it? Like, that's the thing. If
how many albums did Pac have compared to Big? Big had 2 albums. Pac had like 6, 7 albums. There's a whole lot more growth from Pac.
But we're talking about like the whole ability to go pop and not be
I didn't like it because to this day I've said that when Biggie did the joint with the Brat, to me is what signified the death of hip hop as we know it. To me,
right? But I'm talking about like the way Vic that you're saying. It's like it was like Pac was able to do pop. Did people do pop songs? I felt like Big did pop songs, but I never felt like there was a big pop. Like, I just feel like it's giving props to Pac. Like, look, he was able to go pop and be successful at it, like, for a period. Like, this was one of the Pacs you're telling us that we got. Like, this, and I feel like the same thing with Jay-Z.
You go back into his albums, I mean, you named everything but So Many Tears. And So Many Tears is...
No. I named that. I said...
It's the Illmatic, man. I mean, the guy, you really get into the lyrics, and then you really get into Machiavelli, and then you get into all... the Machiavelli ×8, which I was out west when all that was coming out. I mean, those were huge albums in the flea market. Like, cats was just really, like, vibing the Pac. And I just remember, at that time, I was in the Midwest. So it was either Master P and that whole crew, or they was playing Pac, man. They really, and it forced me, I don't want to say forced, but it got me to listen to him. And there's another cat I really wish could get on the show. My man Ran, a Philly cat, and to hear him, he was the one that really just taught me about this cat and got me listening to him, man. And it just, the answer to your question, was it really good for him to do it? Yeah, because that just got that many more people to go out and buy these albums and truly listen to them. And I think at the end of the day, you got more Tupac fans than you got Tupac fans with the Versace and the whole Biggie episode. I think
talk to me like I'm Tupac retarded. You just said you got the Tupac, the Amari Tupac, and then the regular Tupac.
I think he was one of the few cats, man, that really just was able to split the difference and be able to be pop. And then I got this core audience of people that it's like Miles Davis, man. I not to pull cards on nobody, but you listen to Miles, me and Ev, Miles Davis has a total classical album out. Like, you listen to Sketches of Spain and you like, and this is one of his best albums. But yet people are still like, I could still get some kind of blue and all this, but when you play Sketches of Spain, you like, okay, now this is Miles Davis. This is following.
And it may be like what Vegas has said earlier, is just like, it's almost like, I almost feel like the very thing that I hear the passion in your voice, the very reason why you like him, is the very reason why other people don't. Like, that's the thing, and we just said that before you even jumped on, was it's almost like the very reason, because I see the passion in your voice. I see the but it's like everything you're naming that's a positive, to me, is almost like a negative. Because it's almost just like, we wouldn't be sitting here saluting Gangstar if they just took a whole 2 albums and went pop, and then decided to come back to be Gangstar again. It would be like, no, they done. They done. You don't get the chance to go to be pop.
It did happen when they did a joint with Jodeci. That's what cats was, not you, but that's what I heard from some cats. Like, oh, they doing joints with Jodeci.
But like, how did y'all feel about Jazzmatazz? Like, I know some cats that really like, yo, Jazzmatazz is that shit.
Now, I like Jazzmatazz, but we talked about this.
Yeah, that's a little different.
And I'm not sure if it was on that one, but we were talking about how it was like Guru stepped away. He gave you a red flag. He sent the email to everybody and said, look, this is not Gangstar. This is why I'm doing it separately, because I don't want any Gangstar, mass appeal, hard to earn daily operation fans to buy this album hoping to hear this. No, this is going to be a jazz album. And I thought that was dope, because it gave people opportunity to say, thank you, I'm not with that. And it gave jazz a chance to say, I'll try it.
But I hear exactly what you're saying, but at the same time, I have to bring this up, and it's not to compare the two, because I know you're a big fan.
Right.
You are a Biggie fan. But this is one of the cats that did exactly that. But I mean, when it comes to this cat, I'm not comparing these two. It's not that kind of conversation. But it's the fact that you are a huge fan of Biggie. When it comes to that, and it's like, oh, okay, I can rock with that. I can rock with the Biggie big and with the pop big, and it's cool. So, but that's still 2 different styles. So how was that acceptable? But the other thing,
I really didn't rock with the pop big. Like, I really didn't like More Money, More Problems. Or I didn't really like half of Life After Death. I really didn't like Going Back to Cali. Half of that, some of them songs I still haven't even heard in their entirety. You know what I'm saying? But and maybe I'm wrong for what Vic was saying. I thought he was saying like one of the pops was the pop. Like Bezo said, and maybe Big would have went there. Maybe Big would have followed the exact same road that Jay-Z did and would have made a complete pop album.
He paved the road of what Jay-Z did.
But I mean, I think Jay just did it. Like, there was a point where I was like, and I love Jay-Z. When Jay Reasonable Doubt came out, I loved him. There was a point where I said, I'm done. There was a point where I said, I'm not buying any more Jay. And between probably that Hard Knock Life album up into the Blueprint, so that's the Hard Knock Life, it was the joint with the I'm in the Club and Big Pimpin', then it was the Dynasty. For 3 albums, I didn't rock with Jay until the Blueprint came back around, and my man Jay sent me and said, he's back. He's back.
So those 3 albums you didn't, I mean, I don't get into detail. Those 3 albums you didn't purchase, you ain't had no likes on them albums. You just kind of left them alone.
I mean, yeah, for the most part, yeah. I heard the Hard Knock Life album because, again, Jay's Satan and he's gonna trick us. So when I heard Hard Knock Life, I remember being at Bezo and Shy's house, like, yo, this is crazy. But then when I started hearing that was right around the time Swiss came in, and I wasn't feeling those Swiss beats type tracks. So I was like, I'm not feeling this. Even with the joint Big Pimpin'. I mean, of course, I heard it. I wasn't a fan of it.
So today you're not a fan of Big Pimpin'?
I'm a fan of Big Pimpin' if you put it on in the club and I'm in the club, but it's not.
If you in your car, you drive.
Time out, hold on, fellas.
I actually just did.
I know we're going off, Bezo. I know.
I want to know, like, how is Big Pimpin'? What is pop about Big Pimpin'? I mean, the song's called Big Pimpin'.
Isn't
that pop? Making money? Wait a minute, you're right.
Hold up. So
pop. I mean, it's Big Pimpin' is making money. Isn't that popular?
No, but see, this is my question. This is my question, because when y'all were talking, I'm wondering in my mind, like, wait, hold up. Y'all keep mentioning the Life After Death album with Biggie when he went pop. When y'all first said about Biggie doing pop shit, I'm thinking of like One More Chance, you know what I mean, in the remix and shit.
One More Chance, all the remixes, right?
For me, when I think of something being pop, I look at, especially as a cat who samples and makes beats, like when Puff was having this influence on Big, and Big was doing like them classic R&B joints that we grew up on, listening to Barbecue, like Chic and all that type of stuff. Yeah, I guess you can call that pop music, but that's pop. That's a different type of pop than sampling Sting for I'm Missing You. Like, that's a pop song when it came out, and you taking a pop record and that sold millions of records, and you're using that, and it's like a cover version of it. That's just you just taking a straight pop joint. That's, for me personally, when I see something being pop, that's the type of shit I'm talking about. Now, just a song or an album selling exponentially, to me that doesn't necessarily mean it's.
If you're appealing to pop culture,
I'm talking about the pop sound. I'm talking about the sound.
Let's do this because I don't want to go too far. And like I said, I may have been wrong with Vic. Vic may not have been saying pop. That was one of the pops. I mean, I feel like even Ghostface, love him to death. Ghostface always had, I guess, a pop radio song, at least one. Mm-hmm. You know, so I'm not holding it against you if you're saying, because again, like I said earlier, I've never heard a Pac album. So I'm literally just asking. I'm not trying to corner. No, I'm asking, was it just a song? Because if it's just a song, then I don't got a problem with that. Because even the best, Ghostface, had to make those pop songs with Carl Thomas singing the chorus. And then the rest of the album was Ghostface. So those things. But if you're saying there was a 2-year span of Pac where he was a pop artist, that's all I was saying. That's different. That's why I was saying I don't think we'd be saying that about Gangstar. 2 Gangstar albums were pop. So that's what. So let me ask Vic: is that what you're saying, that there was a pop that was popular?
I think the popular pop was the record company attempt to get to sell records on the East Coast when they started all that East Coast, West Coast shit. Because I mean, the only other person I have on this panel to even remotely, not as disrespect, but to understand, like I'm telling you, man, Pac on the West Coast was that shit, and you didn't hear the songs like that you heard out here over there. They got more into the album, just like we did with Biggie. We went beyond Give Me One More Chance, and we got to all the other songs because, you know, that vibe, like, yo, we out here and out there, that Pac shit was just, it was humongous. And at that time, you know, the war had jumped off, man. And I was telling Ev earlier, 60% of the enlisted force at that time, this is on a tangent, was black. And, you know, them cats was marching to Pac, man. It wasn't no Biggie, no Mobb Deep getting played. You know, these cats was literally getting in the Pac, and it got you to read books. I mean, you get into his background, his people. It just was a whole nother type of movement that did not say that you didn't listen to his records. Maybe you need to listen to them and not be on something.
And I see where you're coming from. I want to bring Vegas in real quick. Vegas, what do you think about, like, the pop? Do you think Big was, like, what do you think about what Vic is saying?
I could totally see that being feasible because, you know what I'm saying, Pac was kind of representing the West Coast. So, of course, he would be bigger on, you know, on the West Coast than he would be on the East Coast. And the same thing with Biggie. I didn't have any problems with the pop records for the most part because I think it was just a sign of the times. And when I say pop, I'm not necessarily talking about the techniques. I'm just talking about they're just trying to make a song that's popular with people. You know what I'm saying? So they're looking for a catchy hook, whether it's an R&B dude on there or a chick or whatever, catchy beat and, you know, simplistic lyrics and going for it. And that's what hip hop was in them, like that, 97, 98, it was going towards, the radio was going in that direction. So I think, you know, Pac and those kinds of records was just to cater to the environment of the music industry. But like I said, that album was probably my favorite, and the point where I came and I said, I think I really like Pac music now. And I'm talking All Eyes on Me. And some of it was because of the, you know, the more pop records. You know what I'm saying? But he had so much more on that album that I could never look at that album and say, oh, well, he's going pop. And same thing with Biggie. I felt like it was enough of a balance where, you know, I was in the clubs heavy, so I didn't mind a lot of those pop type records, but there was still Kicking the Door. There was still 10 Crack Commandments. 10 Crack Commandments alone was enough for me. You know what I'm saying? So there was still a lot of what we loved about them, but the pop records were just a sign at the time. You know what I'm saying? And Big and Pac were just trying to, you know, sell records. I think it's amazing that I thought Machiavelli sold more than that. You know what I'm saying? Because you said All Eyes on Me went diamond, but Machiavelli only sold.
I thought that was the diamond.
And again, it's just Wikipedia. It has that 4 times flat.
Okay. Yeah, but yeah, man, I didn't have a problem with it, like I said, because I like some of the joints, and both of them were double albums, so there was plenty of positive pop, thug life pop, and then there was the pop music pop for the spring break white dude who, you know, just got introduced to pop. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I could see it definitely being a different vibe on the West Coast versus the East Coast.
And I guess that's my question too, Vic, because I know for me, when I lived in Atlanta during the ATLiens, Outkast's second album. And that right there, I think that may be one of the things that really pulled, because like you're saying about LA, if you was in Atlanta during the ATLiens era or that Southern Playalistic era, man, you can't deny Outkast. I mean, it literally made me rock with that album that much more. So again, when people say they don't like Outkast, I get it. I can understand. I may not have as much love for them as I would if I wasn't in Atlanta at that time. At that ATLiens, that was a pivotal time for Outkast because that's all we had down south. You know what I'm saying? So it was like that was a pivotal time, and it's something like you said, and then you kind of corrected yourself. You said it kind of made you listen to Pac, and then you said, well, not really made you, but I do think that plays a huge role that you were there, because if you weren't there during that time, I question would you have the same passion, kind of like I do with Outkast. What do you think?
Well, you know, and that's a good question, and honestly, you know, like with Mobb Deep, I got into Tupac when I was older, you know, because that is true. When I was out there, you know, I told Ev earlier today, I couldn't wait. You know, them cats was on it so much, I couldn't wait for Boom Bap to drop. You know what I mean? My man Flex to just be knocking that, because it was always, and it's crazy you said that, because it was a lot of cats from down south, and all they rock. I remember the dude across the hall in my barracks, all he rocked was Atlians, and I'm like, man, what? Come on, man, you need to get this DOS effects and shit, you know. But you know, with the Pac, man, I just learned that, you know, I wasn't here for the Biggie thing. So I didn't get to see it truly for what it was. Like I tell Ev all the time with the Mobb Deep, but the Tupac and my hip hop culture lifestyle, when I chose to be about it, the Tupac thing, you know, was something that I really got to see manifest and be tangible. You know, he did the whole thug life thing with the gang shit, you know, and again, California, you split Cali into 3 different states. You know, and then here I am out in Texas, and these guys are, you know, they quoting lyrics, they living their life like highwaymen based on this cat. And it just was so huge, man, that eventually it was like, you know what, let me peep this cat out. And, you know, I think I really got to my man, you know, Rand, shout out to my man Rand, I really probably got to listening to Pac, man. You know, I'm 44 now, probably maybe 15 years ago, he was like, look, man, check out Thug Life. You know, and I went into Thug Life, and that was the first time I got to listen. I don't think there's any videos or any radio related airplay to the album Thug Life. And that's really
is that like his crew album? That was like his crew's album, right?
Right. And I got to listen to Thug Life, and it was like, and that was his point. He was like, look, man, he had a crew all the way out in Cali on some Cali shit, and then he jumps off in New York, and unfortunately it went south, but he had a whole nother thing going on over here. And that to me was like, damn, man, you know, this cat, very few people, you know, can do 2 things at almost one time, man. You know, and that's what really got me into that cat. You know, I like Ev, you know, how big was Nas in California?
I mean, not that he wasn't big, you know, and when I was out there, this was way after Illmatic. The Nas that we talk about.
Let me reframe the question from, you know, where you lived at and what you really seen going on in California. Like,
it wasn't heavy Nas. It was mainly a lot of either West Coast or underground hip hop. You was mainly going to get a lot of that. So, you know, you had your Nas heads and your Nas fans out there, because Nas is like Pac. You know, you got Pac fans over here, you gonna have Nas fans over there. But of course, you know, being in certain parts of LA and working in South Central, you're not going to necessarily hear Nas playing on the radio or somebody bring, their CD in or whatever like that. Not that it's unheard of, but it's LA, so you're going to get a lot of LA stuff.
So we more so saying that a lot of this is just territorial.
I'm saying I think it's unfair to go into it territorial, and that people out there, whoever's watching the show, grab yourself a Pac album and try to find yourself, at least hear it. Maybe hopefully you'll be able to listen to it, because I think MTV definitely did them two brothers injustice by putting that bullshit out there, East Coast, West Coast. And you had two great, I always said it, damn man, maybe Biggie might have been on the Michael Jackson level by now. I mean, we seen Pac do it. It went from books to movies and everything else he got into, man, off of just, being this cat Tupac. Nothing crazy or made up. Like, this is me. I live this lifestyle. This is where I was at. And he put it into his music, and he, became something bigger. I just don't do yourself the injustice. Like, I was out here, fuck all that. Excuse my language, but I ain't listening to that. And I think that's where a lot of the Tupac negativity and I ain't doing it comes from, man.
Now, and I mean, to be honest with you, I said it earlier, it's like, I almost feel like the pieces of the puzzle of Pac are coming together, because now is like the first time that I'm like, I'm gonna get all eyes on me. You know what I'm saying? Now is the first time that I'm like, I'm gonna listen to some Pac. You know what I mean? And I mean, so I definitely want to check it. But like I just said earlier, I wonder, Vic, if you just stayed in New York, would you have this passion for Pac?
Yeah.
Yo, can I throw something in there too? Because this is something me and Vic kind of shed some light on me today. I think this shows a little bit of the influence that Pac had. There is a state representative, a white Republican in the state of Florida, who's running for president, who is a Tupac fan.
Who was also an original member of the Hip Hop Caucus, Mark Rubio. Which
is crazy for me. So I mean, I guess some of it can be territorial, but some of it is not. I mean, because that's Florida.
I mean, but is dude from Florida? But hold on, let me.
And I would, and to answer your question, would I be a Tupac fan now? Now I would be. If you just had this conversation with me 20 years ago, no, because I did buy into the hype. I was on my. I'm a strictly BDP ultramagnetic type of dude. I'm BX hip hop all damn day. You know what I mean? Everything from up north. I ain't even on that Brooklyn shit like that, but for real. Yeah.
Let me let Vegas get in. Vegas, what's up?
Yeah, I was just gonna speak to the whole territorial thing. I think some of it is and some of it isn't, because like the dudes that talked me into listening to more Pac, they were from Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? And I think it was like this conversation. It was just thinking more about his lyrics and thinking more about him is what got me more interested in him. So it kind of opened me up to what he was saying, regardless of the message.
Thank you.
And then I could see why people liked him. You know what I'm saying? Because I do that with everybody. Like like the dude Young Thug. I'm like, all right, this is what they like. Let me give him a shot. Let me see why they like him, and then let me give him a shot. Doesn't mean I'm gonna like him, but I think that's how I came to appreciate Tupac a little bit more, was hearing other people talk about him and saying, okay, and them telling me why, and then coming with their ear into his album and saying, all right, yeah, I dig this record, I dig that one, I like, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's always territorial, but I think as far as when it comes to the radio, without a doubt, because especially here, being up here in Jersey and being back home in the tri-state area, when it's Big's birthday or the anniversary of his death,
right,
not
crazy,
escape the trip, you know what I'm saying? But when it's Pac, it's recognized bigger on the West Coast. So
I got a question for G though. Coming from the whole ultimate camp in hip hop, as a producer, like, would you have found yourself doing stuff with Pac?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you missed the beginning of the show, but I was telling cats that at least in terms of people I knew from New York and Jersey and even Philly, when I first came to Baltimore, I was one of the few cats that was rocking with Pac. You know what I mean? So it was the later version of Pac. Like, I wasn't, and I have the albums. I have Machiavelli and All Eyes on Me. I like All Eyes on Me better than Machiavelli, but it was like, for me, I was almost like hurt. Like, damn, son, this is the cat. Yo, I had mad love for this cat. I had mad dreams of what this cat was going to be. You know what I mean, to the game or whatever, and it turned into this other shit, which again I felt like wasn't really his doing. I think he just fell victim to his own circumstances. And then once he got out, it was just like, I think he felt like he just had to ride or die with that whole death row, West Coast, East Coast shit. But I will say this much, though. I do think the territorial shit is more about not necessarily just your location, but the timing. Because like what you said, Kill, about being in Atlanta right when ATL, Aliens, whatever the hell you say, when it first came out. So that, you know, it just absorbed, you got sucked into it whether you wanted to or not. You know what I mean? So for people who are, if you're in Cali when that shit pops off, and you're in New York or from that area when that shit popped off, you just instinctively have your familiarities, you know what I'm saying, that you're going to rock with. And then when everybody around you is feeling it, it's kind of hard not to. But, I mean, I think one thing you got to remember, too, is kind of like for Vic, for you having this love for Pac after being in Cali, it's kind of like if I'm in a fight or if I see the fight or somebody tells me to fight. If I'm in the fight, obviously my attitude is going to be, I'm telling you the story of the fight, you know, I'm going to be amped, I'm going to be all into the shit. If I was there and my mans was winning, I'm going to have one attitude about it, you know, how I talk about it. But if I wasn't there and you tell me about a cat I don't like getting beat up, I'm like, all right, word, yeah, you know, you're going to like that shit, you're not going to fuck with it, whatever. You don't want to hear that shit. Bitch, your man getting stomped out by some nigga you don't like. So I think it's kind of the same thing where it's like you're there and it's like at the right perfect moment when the shit pops off. Because, Kill, we was in Baltimore when Biggie died. We was in Baltimore when Illmatic came out. You know what I'm saying? And shit, it wasn't like my whole crew was from Queens when Nas dropped. It wasn't like my whole crew was from Brooklyn when Biggie dropped. But we still liked these things because they were good music. You know what I mean? When Pac first came out, and he got all these fans because he was making good music. You know what I mean? You can take all of the other shit away in terms of territorial and everything else. If he wasn't making good music, it would have fell on deaf ears. Nobody would have cared. So, right. And I'm just saying that because I know there's going to be some people's going to watch this that's going to think we ain't giving them enough credit or we ain't showing them enough love. But I do think that one thing that everybody, I would agree on, I think we all kind of said it, that if you just take Tupac, the music, the artist, the music away, I don't think we would dispute the fact that we all agree that he's a poet and that he was an intelligent cat, and that regardless of what you felt about his music, as a black man growing up in America, I could relate to him as a man and the shit he was dealing with and the shit he was going through. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't like Brenda Got a Baby. I got 3 children by 2 different chicks, you know what I'm saying? You know, that's like 4 months apart. I didn't like that whole Brenda's Got a Baby. I didn't like, you know, Dear Mama shit, because I had problems with my moms growing up, and even when she was at her worst, I would never say to the public, yo, your mom, my mom was smoking crack, you know what I mean? I wouldn't put that out there. So that's why, for me personally, I didn't like those songs, you know what I'm saying? Because they personally impacted shit that I really dealt with, you know what I mean? That I didn't want to deal with type shit. So hearing it from Pac on that side of it was like, oh man, I don't want to hear that shit, dog. You know what I mean? So it's all, I think it's all relative to your situation in life, man, and where you're at and the timing, more so than necessarily where you're at. I think the timing is a huge part of it too.
Right, and I mean, I think too, Vic, I mean, like you said, one of the things that, I mean, and I'm open and honest about is that when growing up, at times I've been closed-minded. So when I didn't really like Pac like that, it almost was nothing to make me want to hear Pac out. And it's kind of like what Vegas was saying, like your crew, here's a fact, because people always would ask me. I did strictly hip hop from 1994 to 2000. So for 6 years, we never played any Tupac. And I wasn't in charge of the music. There were over, during that 6 years, we had over 8 different DJs. Not one DJ ever in those 6 years ever played any Pac. I never told anybody what to play or what not to play. So, I mean, when the person asked me this question on Twitter, it made me think about that. We never played any Tupac up at Strictly Hip Hop, 88.9. From 94 to 2000. I'll never forget when Dear Mama came out, people was calling up like, yo, we want to hear that new Dear Mama. We was like, we don't even know what that is. I guess it had just come out on 92Q or something. We never played Pac. And a lot of times people think I was in charge of the show, and I never told the DJs what to play. I don't think Vegas ever told DJs what to play. It was like, yo, this is your 45-minute spin whatever you want. And not one person in 6 years ever played any Tupac.
I don't. That's you know, like I can agree with Bees on that. You know your timing, but I just think now, man, that we're sitting here, man, and we grew up with this shit, and we grown now, man, and we obviously all are lovers of music. What I would challenge the people that watch this show, man, you know, again, I'll say it again, to go out and, you know, pick it up, man. Even if you want to pick up a whole album, you know, pull something up, man, and play it. Something besides just the video, and on top of a little bit more than what Biggie had, you know, when he did Dear Mama, you know, there also was a rally for single black mamas. You know, it was always something with his songs, you know, some type of advocacy going along with it. You know, like the whole thug life. You know, this that gangbanging shit. You know, I'm on the East Coast, and I'm, you know, to the day I die. But out there, when I really got to see that Crip and Blood craziness, man, and you know what this cat was doing behind that, on the strength of where he came from, Black Panthers, and now, you know, these songs are making even a little bit more sense, and they're just a little bit more eloquent, and okay, you know, I can get with this, man. You know, like B said, we're gonna get on some man shit. I think he was, again, one of them cats that just, you know, he pulled it off, man, and a lot of what we don't want to, I don't fuck with Pac, is just, it's childish, man, if you into music like that.
But I think the thing is, I think it's two things. I think, well, one, let me say it before I forget the thought, because I'm getting old. It was going back, what I was saying about Strictly Hip Hop was because how Vegas said his friends pulled him in. I never had one human being ever come to me like, yo, you need to listen to this Pac album. Not one. Not one human being in my life has ever pulled me up like, Kill, you need to listen to this All Eyes on Me. So I'm sure if somebody did, that would have pulled me in. Not one human being. And anybody will tell, if you went to Morgan with me, I chopped it up with everybody from one side of campus to the other, to Strictly Hip Hop, to people on the radio. Not one human being has ever pulled me up. Like me and Bezo say all the time, if it's dope enough, it'll make its way to me. Somebody will tell me about your old Drew. Somebody will tell me about Chance the Rapper. Somebody will tell me about this person. Not one human being has ever pulled me up and said, you need to listen to this Pac. Not one. And trust me, I politic with too many people to name. Too many. And not one. But I agree with you. Like I said, I am going to pull up some Pac. I am going to listen to it. I won't say it's childish if you don't, because some people just don't rock with shit. Like Common said, if I don't like it, I don't like it. It don't mean that I'm hating. You know what I'm saying? If just because the singles you're putting out, there's some people who like, yo, I don't like R. Kelly. Why? I heard the singles. You ever heard the album? Nah, you got to get into the album. I'm not going to call that person childish because you don't like R. Kelly or because you don't like. The singles is what gets people. If you see a movie trailer, you decide if you want to go see the movie.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, like to say that, man, like, I don't know what them cats was on. I'm with Vegas, man. It was some East Coast cats that hit me to Tupac. It wasn't even no out and cat from Philly. I could put a cat, my man could get on here and, you know, blast us for hours on
I'm just talking about from my standpoint, and just sitting and doing a radio show and having people call up every Friday night. You know, to being able to, That's just me. I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm just telling you my story of why I didn't listen to Pac. Because if somebody co-signs you, then it's a lot of people getting me on Twitter like, yo, you heard this dude? Nah. Yo, he's dope. All right, you tell me that, I'll check him out. Again, nobody told me that. So I didn't have the opportunity to be in LA when Pac was jumping off, because it feels like you're giving us a whole lot of stuff we didn't know. Like you said, you know, he did Brenda Got a Baby. Y'all ain't know he had this. You're right. We didn't know. That's the key point. We didn't know there was something behind it. He do Thug Life. Y'all didn't know he. You're right. I didn't know he had something. So you coming with like the secret Batman information, like you ain't know Batman.
Was it because y'all were in the industry? Was it some industry rule number 4080 shit where we just, you know what, we gonna ride this whole shit out and we not even.
Nah, and I'm gonna let Vegas get into because he did the radio, but there was, and even doing a radio station, I wouldn't even say we was in the industry because we was like stretching Bobito. We wasn't 92Q. We was the underground station. This is where there ain't no playlist. There wasn't no program director saying play these. These DJs got to pick whatever they desired to play. So there was no, I never would say we was in the industry. Never. But Vegas, what you got on tap with that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, speaking about strictly hip hop, something from the past is something more recent since I'm doing the show now. But like in the past, especially when I took over from you, a couple of those DJs, and more so with Eminem, was like, I'm gonna just put him out there, Lil Mike. But he was like, you know, oh well, Kill ain't really rock with Eminem, so I wouldn't really play him. And I'm like, well. But yeah, but why? You know what I'm saying? And I don't think it was necessarily you. I just think they kind of looked at, you know, okay, well,
because you was the boss. See, Kid, that's why the last chance it ain't going on. Because boss ain't like it.
I never kill. This is all news to me. This is all news to me.
True, come on.
This is all news to me. I never told anybody. I told
you ain't like it. You told me you ain't like it.
I didn't. Yo, this is my word. I never went up there and was like, yo, I don't like Pac. And again, maybe that's Little Mike, and I would be shocked to hear that from Kaz and Titan. But I'm gonna fall back. But let's just say that's news to my ears. I never knew anything about. But keep going, Vegas. Vegas.
Yeah, well, but even with the whole Pac situation, like when I came back, you get me?
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Yeah, like when I came back to Strictly Hip Hop, one of the dudes who were like working behind the scenes, you know, he heard a couple of the records that we were, you know, bringing back to the show, whatever, as far down, and he heard some old school joints, and he was like, "Yo, why y'all never play no Pac?" And it was, he said it to me almost as if he was afraid to say it because, like, you know, you see like this, and he like, oh, well, I know he ain't gonna play no Pac. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just a stigma where they think that most East Coast dudes don't like Pac, especially if we're vocal about, you know, who we like and who we don't like, and we really into hip hop. They automatically may put you in that category where, like, yeah, well, do you like Pac? Do you like Outkast? You know what I'm saying? So
sound like
I'll say that.
I'm the blame. Pac not getting played.
All putting out the playlist.
I'm the blame. All this time, man, and I was like, look, these cats can play whatever they want. Secretly, it was like, man, it's my
you wasn't like they could play whatever they want.
Yo, this is my word. This is my word. I never told anybody, and it's funny you brought up Eminem because they never played no Eminem. So
look, you can look, you can do whatever you want, but I don't like Eminem. I don't like, you know, I'm
Pac, nice and smooth. Yeah.
All right, so Baltimore, it's my fault that you didn't hear Pac for 6 years. Vegas, please tell me you started playing some Pac once I stepped down and you stepped up. He ain't help either, so don't just throw me under the bus, man. It just wasn't me.
I won't say I didn't, but
like everybody like, the Wicked Witch is dead. This nigga gone. Where the Pac Eminem at? And party up there then. So please tell me you play some Pac then.
It was light. You know what I'm saying? We played some Eminem. We played some Pac. Like, I was always about the people. So, you know, I'm like, okay, you want to hear some Pac? Yeah, we don't play Pac. Play that. But I can't say it was consistent because, like I said, when I took over, you know, Big and Pac were gone. So that was more like old school unless they released, you know, like one of those albums after they passed away. And, you know, you kind of play it off the strength of that. Like, yo, it's new Pac or it's new Big.
I can get that.
Yeah, exactly.
That it wasn't current, as opposed to, you know, when it was current.
When I was,
boss was in there.
It's all my fault. Let me ask y'all a question. Did Stretch and Bob play Pac? Bezo?
Was who?
Did Stretch and Bob play Pac up in NY?
I mean, they were really trying to focus on underground shit you never heard. And
yeah,
I never heard
Bob played Eminem.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's when Eminem was on the underground shit.
All right, so it's my fault. Baltimore, I apologize. 6 years of no Pac. I had no idea I had that influence on
Wait, time out. Well, hold on. Don't be copping no please now. Hold up.
No, I'm not copping a plea. I'm just saying that my thing was.
I'm saying don't eat that. Don't take that responsibility. Fuck that. My thing is when we just sat here for half an hour, 45 minutes talking about the nigga was on some pop shit. I know damn well that Strictly Hip Hop was about underground type of hip hop shit. It wasn't about no pop hip hop. He wasn't playing the Brat or none of them type of people on it, Crisscross and shit like that. It wasn't getting played back then. So if Pop was on some pop music, hey man, it's only was going to happen that he wasn't going to get played. He would have got played on 92Q.
I'm just saying that I truly believe that, like, I gave a, like, yo, cats can play whatever they want. So that was always my thing was like, yo, well, it's not just me because nobody's playing Pop. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not copping nothing because, to be honest with you, I don't know what Pop song I would have played. I don't know what they would have played.
And that's my point. That's my point because, and I'm not dissing Pop. I'm just being 100 with this. I know what Strictly Hip Hop was about, y'all show. And I know what we just sat here and talked for 45 minutes, man, about how whether or not Pop was Pop, you know, when he can't say Pop was Pop, whatever, when that shit happened, how long he was doing that. And if he was doing that during your time up there, then it's almost by osmosis that he would have get played on Strictly Hip Hop. So I'm just saying, you ain't got to eat that responsibility. That Tupac got to eat that responsibility. That ain't you.
For the people out there who listen, y'all eat the responsibility. Y'all could have
people calling up asking for shit. Nobody calling begging for no Tupac. That ain't on you. Shit.
And you're right. Only one person I remember asking for their mama. But Vic. All right, yo. Dope show. Prayerfully, nobody took away. Number one, this was not a Pop diss show. This was us answering a question that somebody got at me at Twitter about why the East Coast doesn't show Pac love. All we talked about were the personal reasons why we did or didn't like Pac. That's not a diss show. That's just what we believe. I know there's other people out there who felt the same exact way. And I think one of the biggest things that I walked away with is that the key thing is the very reason why some people love Pac are the very same reasons some people don't. You know, so again, any last word? Let me at least get this with Pac. What would some of y'all favorite Pac? Give me a favorite Pac song if you have one. Is there a Pac song that you did like? I'll go to Bezo last to give him a chance to kind of circle through his discography of his brain, or I could go to him first because I don't think that's gonna come.
You come to me first, though. I have no idea, man, because it's like the only songs I know, and that's not, you know, don't take that the wrong way though, because I love Mobb Deep, Hell on Earth, but I could name you one song of the album, and that's Hell on Earth, the title track. I mean, I just don't know song titles like that.
Hottest joint off of All Eyes on Me, and somebody actually on YouTube has a live version of that shit, and it's crazy. So Many Tears. It's a couple joints on Thug Life. Like, yo, after I actually got to really listen to this cat, I'm like, well, shit. You know, this especially being in Philly right now with the environment and the attitude and the culture going on here, it's like, yo, the Tupac shit really is, you know, it's almost like this cat was predicting the future. Like, now that you play it and you in Philly, you're like, well, damn. You know, the police is fucked up, the black people's fucked up, the white people's crazy. You know, and this dude, you know, you go back in his discography and he was rapping about that shit coming from where he came from.
Right.
You know?
Right. All right, Vegas, what you got on? What's your favorite Pac song?
My favorite Pac is probably I Ain't Mad at You, because I think it probably had the biggest impact on me, like as far as like really feeling what he was saying, because I love all the other records, but I felt like that had the biggest impact on me, for me to feel comfortable saying, yo, I'm a Pac fan. Especially with the video, the timing, you know, with him passing away, and the things he was saying in it. And it kind of speaks to what we were saying earlier about, you know, him making the Thug records to get the brothers in. That record kind of talks like that, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, you married now, or you go to school now, you know, we used to gang bang, but, you know, I see what you're doing, I ain't mad at you. So that's probably my favorite.
All right. What about you, Ed?
Actually, that was one of mine. I Ain't Mad at You. That same reason, like that really hit a moment with me. That and honestly, me and my girlfriend, man.
Oh, and he did that before Nas did his joint.
Yeah, that shit was bang.
Before Nas did his joint, so it's almost like when you listen to the Nas joint, like Nas kind of bit a little bit.
Wait, Nas did that joint? Jay-Z.
Nas got a song about the same exact damn thing on the I Am album. That Machiavelli is an earlier version of the cut than what Nas did. Man.
Wait, am I bugging out?
You better than me. You better than me to even know that.
But didn't Jay-Z and Beyonce do that same song?
They redid that. They redid that song.
The latter version of it.
Yeah, which is
I never knew Nas did it.
Just like it's a whole nother Ain't No Nigga Like the One I Got. If you from New York, that came out before Jay-Z came out with his shit. And I got that shit. So,
you know, I will say, Kill, I had to pick that I Ain't Mad at You too, man. Dude. I mean, I love the original song. You know what I mean? That, and see, like that to me would be a pop song because of the popularity of the sample that he used. You know what I'm saying? It was a pop song when the original sample was a pop song that even my pops or my grandmother would hear that and like, oh, I know that song. So yeah, I think that's the pop song. That's what I consider. I mean, that's like the producer in me though.
That's kind of, I guess that's where, coming up as a producer and coming up as an MC, to me, pop songs are what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right, so just difference of opinion. I would have Pain, man. That joint, it wasn't on a Above the Rim soundtrack again. It was in the movie, and I brought the soundtrack just for that song, and it wasn't on there. But that joint Pain that he did, I don't even know where that's on, Vic. Is that on a Pac album, or is that just something that's
just something just
was out? I mean, that track is crazy. I actually just sampled the Earl Clue joint and kind of flipped it into a slow jam type joint, but that Pain joint is dope. And then I got to go with the whole, you know, I Ain't Mad at You too, you know, like Vegas said, the video, the timing of it and everything like that. Vegas, yo, real quick, man, tell them about the Strictly Hip Hop 25th anniversary coming up, and let them know where, you know, the website, all that good stuff about Strictly Hip Hop and what you're doing with that.
All right, let me just add something that was said about my joint. As far as that first, what I gave you power, or
was that first?
Yeah, as far as the concept with the gun, but the beat was the same. Like me and my girlfriend, there was a beat on I think on the I Am album, Street Dreams. That had the same beat.
Okay.
My girlfriend, but the concept wasn't. Nas did the concept first. But yeah, the concept. But yeah, Strictly Hip Hop still come on every Friday from midnight to 5 a.m. You can stream it on weaa.org, or if you got a mobile phone or tablet or whatever, you can download the TuneIn app, and you can listen to it live, or you can even record it if you don't feel like staying up or whatever. And that's midnight Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, the Strictly Hip Hop anniversary is coming up on May the 9th, where we do 24 hours of hip hop. We bring back all of the old hosts. Hopefully we'll play some Pac, because Kill will be there, so I don't know if he's going to let us play some.
Yo, you can play some Pac. Yo, Baltimore, get ready, baby. What high school you went to? Performing arts, get ready, man. Pac, Baltimore, and I'm going to be the one up there pressing the button. I'll be putting the needle on the groove, man. You tell I'm old. I just said. It don't get much older.
You know, good word, you old motherfucker.
All right, cool.
A lot of Pac, man. Outlaws, a lot of stuff like for people to really, if you like digging.
Do this. Give everybody out there who like me, give us one album. Don't give us 50 different things to search. Give us what's the one Pac thing you gonna send me to? Where you want me to go?
Yeah. Like if I want to learn about Pac at his best, what album I listen to?
I'm with Vegas, man. Go with Machiavelli.
Machiavelli. All right.
Well, I'm already off the track, niggas. I got that shit. Yeah.
Go with Vegas.
All eyes on me. I'm fucking more than that.
Wait. I got a little question because I do my research and I got a little controversy. When did Machiavelli drop? It says release date was 96, which is the same year that it was written dropped. So how we know who came out first?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, now at that point, I was down there in Texas, Oklahoma. So
not saying that Nas didn't. I'm just curious, like how we know.
We gonna have to find release dates. Then we gotta have to get the release dates. And
I'm looking at them, 96.
But dog, you an artist. You know how long music can sit before it actually drops. Check the Rhyme may have been done 6 months before we even heard it. So we're not gonna know which one actually came out first. But another dope show, live from the writer's bench. I do want to do this. Yo, me and 3 of my peoples got together. Y'all know I work with kids. I podcast called The Corner, and what we did was we sat down and chopped it up about the joys of raising daughters, the ups, the downs, all that good stuff. We did that joint. Check it out. We'll make time. You can check it out. It's called The Corner, and we're talking about, one of my teenagers, a security guard at her school, was trying to have sex with her and about 15 other girls. You know what I mean? So just, was talking about the evils that's out here, when it comes to, working with kids and raising our daughters and everything like that. So, like I said, just check it out, see about it. Yo, Bezo and Vegas, both of y'all, I'm doing an episode on Sun, so I'm going to need y'all. You good with that, B?
Yeah, absolutely. I got 2 daughters, man.
I got 2 daughters.
But like I was telling Vegas, the hard part is I got so many dudes with daughters, and it's so few.
Nah, I'm fucking with you. It's all good. Yeah, sons, no doubt.
Yeah, it seems like everybody got daughters and don't nobody got sons. So I want to get that joint done. But as always, youtube.com/live from the bench. Good looking for rocking with us as always. Keep it locked. Check y'all next week.